start isn't always transparent. Tell me what the qualities are that you hope to embody, and we'll just go popcorn style so you can sort of shout them out. As an educator, what are those qualities?
Resilience. Hope. Logic and compassion.
Safety.
Kindness.
Self-confidence. Acceptance.
An unbending desire to communicate.
Being in alignment.
So, Tish Jennings wrote a book called Mindfulness for Teachers, which is wonderful, and if you're looking for resources, this is a book that I read with my longer course that I teach for teachers, and she says mindfulness involves 3 fundamental processes: forming intention, paying attention, and then adjusting our attitude. So if my intention is to be compassionate to my students at all times, that includes when they don't have their pencils in class. And then I'm acting from a place of my deepest intention of being compassionate as opposed to being wrapped up in the truth that they don't have their pencils. And it doesn't mean that I don't give them tools to get there, and it doesn't mean that I don't expect them. But it also means, how can I compassionately support them in doing the thing that is most going to help them learn? So when we can really tap in with what our intentions are and set that intention to live it, that becomes sort of our North Star and where we act from in any given moment of the day. And much like mindfulness, we set an intention and cycle around. We try, we fail, we try again, we fail, to meet these intentions that we set for ourselves. And it is that process of setting an intention, trying and failing, trying again, and coming back around that really helps us ultimately grow. So when I work with teachers in a longer scale, we set intentions every week on qualities that we want to bring forth into the classroom and write them on sticky notes or put them on our computers or whatever that thing is. So we can keep looping back to that place regardless of what's happening outside of me, because there's often chaos and things that are out of our control that are really hard. So how do we keep coming back to that place, that North Star and intention about how we want to be? So I want you to set an intention right now to just cultivate a beginner's mind. Get really curious about your breath. So like you've never paid attention to your breath before, you're going to watch the entirety of the inhale. There's actually a moment before we exhale where there's a pause. Watch the exhale, pause, and then inhale. And we're not going to control the breath or do anything fancy with it. I just want you to try to watch the whole thing and see what happens. Okay. So go ahead and find that dignified posture. Bring the spine long. And our intention is to be curious and have that beginner's mind. And ring the bell to start. If you like to bring the hand to the belly to just provide yourself a little bit more anchor with the breath, you're welcome to do that. did that feel like a long time for? How many people did it feel pretty short? What's your guess about how long it was?
A
Minute and a half.
Yeah, it was a minute and a half, which is great because we can pause for a minute and a half, and for a lot of us, that feels like a long, pregnant pause in our day, right? Of just a minute and a half of breathing. For how many people was it unpleasant to tune into the breath? For kids with anxiety, this can be actually really hard to ask them to anchor here, so it's not the best place to start. It's good to have other anchors that they can turn to if that's not one that's comfortable for them. Did anyone else notice thoughts begin to spin or fidgeting? Anyone notice some fidgeting? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my mind just go wander. I was thinking about how can I borrow your idea into my class? How can I carry this out? But do I need to ring the bell or I don't know.
That's never hurt.
Yeah, so it's really easy to get stuck here, right? In those memories. Ooh, it's one of those. Okay. Memories, the planning, the worrying. That's very normal when we quiet down for a minute and a half. And then we start to get a little bit more clarity about like what's going on in there all day long that I don't notice, right? And that's governing sort of the way that I'm interacting with the world. So it's really nice to just take those pauses throughout the day, even for a minute or a minute and a half, even 3 breaths, to just pause and like really check in with what's going on inside. Yeah, so this was a really big hit with a group of teachers, they said with their students. Is anyone familiar with the Mind Jar? So it has confetti and glitter in it, and you can make it bigger if you want. But you just put it down, and the practice can be, if it's visual, right, just watch the Mind Jar. And you'll notice as you watch, it begins to settle. And they love watching it, right? It's like so great. So there's one school I'm working with, and they are, like, this is like what they've taken away. This has been really a useful tool for them.
I use candle gazing with my kids.
Oh.
It's like they sell them at the dollar store. They change colors, so it's interesting for them to look at. And I work with kindergarten and 3rd graders here in this building, and if I could do it for the whole like RTI block for 30 minutes, they could. They really love it.
Yeah.
It's the first time in the day that they sat and done one thing.
Yeah. Any other ideas? You all have been doing some great
I
progress.
just have a question.
Sure.
Is that what you would recommend for people with anxiety, sort of a focal point?
Yeah, you can definitely use a tool like that, an external tool where you can focus the visual attention. The sound one usually goes okay, so you can use something different. Sometimes the breath is just hard to follow because it becomes a part of our anxiety, right? And so if you notice you're breathing a little funny, it might feel like anxiety and trigger sort of a more full-blown piece. So different anchors can work. Yes?
I have 2 Zen gardens in a station in my classroom, and so kids are the most anxious, ADD kids. They've learned, and this is probably the last 6-7 years I've had there, they'll come in and they'll go right to the garden, spend time there while they're waiting for other kids to come in. By the time the whole class comes in, they've settled right down. So it becomes and I've had some kids 3 years in a row, and they're always getting their Zen garden.
Great.
What does it look like? It's just, think about I got it in a craft fair years ago, but it's a little box, and it's got sand in it, it's got stones, and it's got these rakes. You can buy it in probably the dollar store. And they just come in, they love it, and they'll just start raking. And I'll have 2 or 3 or 4 kids at the station at the same time. Then I just got this kinetic sand. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I bought this thing during the summer. I've got 3 contained trays, and so that my 6th graders, I've got about 15 or 16 of them. I call them my babies. They come in, the first thing they want to do is they want to get the sand, put it on top of the tables, and just play with it. And it's not playing with it. You can watch the change in them in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's just like this. And they mold it, they watch it kind of drift. My grandkids are the ones that turned me on to it last. And I said, this is great, I'm gonna buy it, so it works. Any of those little things work great. Then you can do the breathing.
Yeah, great. So having some external tools that you can use. There's also a lot of scaffolding you can build up around breathing, like counting to 8 and starting from the beginning, saying, inhale, exhale. We don't have a lot of time to cover all of those pieces right now, but it doesn't have to be pure breath. So we're going to transition, but I wanted to leave you with sort of this bigger picture for you. So when you're going through your day, how can you practice mindfulness? Well, that can look like setting an intention, and then paying attention and really practicing. So there were some things we did today. You can just stop in the middle of your day and listen for sound. And that can help get you out of the head and a little bit more perspective on what's happening. You can anchor to your own breath, between transitions, just take 3 breaths. And we're going to do a body practice in a minute, but essentially you can do a body scan and go through your body and just check in with what's happening there. We talked at the beginning about how, a lot of us carry tension maybe in our shoulders, check in there, can we relax at all in that area? And then once we've done those things, move forward skillfully from our intention. Do the things we need to do so that we can get back to being with our students and our colleagues in the way that best represents how we want to be. We talked sort of interwoven about this. So I'm sure you're all here because you've heard of this before, but I just want to highlight that this is happening globally right now. So the UK has a Minister of Mindfulness, and they're really doing this huge longitudinal study looking at how mindfulness impacts students in schools. It's happening in Canada. A lot of schools all over this country are also incorporating a practice. It's getting a lot of press. And I just wanted to show you a quick video from some students about mindfulness.